Good morning, everyone. My name is Scott, and welcome to Barbecue Elevated. Today we're going to be making some spare ribs today. It's extra cold outside today, so I'll be actually starting out inside. It's very, very cold. There's snow on the ground, ice on the ground. Really didn't want to be outside. I'm going to be prepping my meat and my ribs on my table outside, but today, with there being so much snow and it being cold, we're going to go ahead and prep them inside, but that's not going to stop us from making some awesome ribs today. Still going to do what I can to make as much barbecue as I can, as often as I can, regardless of the weather outside. It's important to learn how to be able to do these things in any condition. Anyways, I'll get these opened up and then I'll show you how I kind of prep them and get them going. Okay, so here we have it. This is the first rack of ribs that I'll be doing today. I actually got 2 racks of ribs. Here's the second rack of ribs. So pretty much I prep them both the exact same way. One of these I'm just going to do with just a salt pepper mix on top and then putting just salt along the bottom. The other one I'm going to use some seasoning that I mixed together for the turkeys that I did have some left over. Going to try it on the ribs and see how they go. Never done it before, so going to see how that works out and see how it tastes. But anyways, I'll start off by just kind of showing you kind of what I do to get things prepped with spare ribs. So the first thing I like to do is just kind of go through, find any loose ends that are just kind of hanging out. Try to make them so they're just nice and uniform. Make it so everything is square. So typically on spare ribs, right here, on this one it would be right here. There's a breastbone that you'll typically want to get a larger knife and cut it out. The place that I buy my ribs from, they cut it out for me, so I don't have to worry about doing that. It makes it extra nice, extra simple for me. I'm not having to worry about that. But if you ever do get ribs that have that, cut that out. It makes it a lot easier to cook, and there's no point in having it there. So really, I'm just kind of cutting off the scraps, making it so that they're square, making it so that any portions of these ribs that could dry out, that they're not going to. Just try to make it nice and square, nice and even. Don't really want to have, because a lot of ribs and a lot of this stuff, if you have pieces that are hanging off that aren't square, or just like little chunks or whatever, they're just going to dry out. They're not going to taste very good. So just get them off the meat now, get them out of the way, and just improve your overall cook experience. Try to make it so they're nice and uniform, flowing very well. One of the things that I really like about spare ribs is the amount of fat that they have in them. Fat content that's mixed in with the actual meat itself. That's what I look for when I'm buying ribs. I look just for nice amount of fat in them. Back ribs you can get too, and I like back ribs, but those typically have less fat. They're a lot more lean, a little bit more meat on those than what spare ribs are. But spare ribs can be really good, really juicy, just because of their fat content that they have. Something else to look for on spare ribs when you're picking them out and buying them. Don't want to have what's called shiners, which is where you can see the actual bone sticking through. Sometimes that'll happen on spare ribs, so you don't want to see any bone sticking through on top. Just fat and meat across the top. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this over and work on the back side. So there's always this little skirt here of meat that just kind of hangs out, and it really just dries out when you're cooking, and it just doesn't really do much to help the cook or help the flavor or with the overall quality. So I always cut that out as well. Get that out of the way. Get out some of these, just the loose pieces of meat, get them out of the way. So not a whole lot of trimming. Normally doesn't take too long to do this, but definitely makes a difference when you just kind of get the things out of the way that you don't need, or the things that aren't really going to produce any kind of quality, that are just going to dry out. Just cut them out of the way, get them out of the way. And I know a lot of people won't do all of this, and that's totally fine. If you like having it that way and keeping them that way, keep it that way. I typically cut more than I probably need to, but I do it because it's just the way I like them to be. Next, I'm going to see if we can get this the membrane off, which is, you can't really see it, but right along here where the meat is covered with, there's a membrane, the meat that kind of blocks the meat. You know, you can kind of go either way. Most restaurants that you go to, you have ribs at, aren't going to take the membrane out because they don't have time to do that. In my experience, taking it out, leaving it on doesn't really make a huge difference from flavor, but it does. But I do think it does make enough of a difference that it's worth taking them off when you're just doing a few ribs. And so that's what we're going to do, and I'm going to do it just so I can kind of show you. If you notice, I just kind of started with the knife underneath and just kind of broke it free with the knife. And then, well, this one's going to be a little bit stubborn, but we'll get it. Just kind of get your fingers underneath, and hopefully you can see when I'm pulling, just pull it all the way across, pull it off. Not super complicated, not super difficult, but definitely something you've got to just be aware of, and just something I guess can be helpful to see being done. So now we've got it off, and now you can kind of see here the difference, where you can see the meat that's exposed as opposed to like these ones right here, where you can still see that the membrane is still on it. Gonna go ahead and just kind of finish up getting the rest of this off, and then once I get that off, I can move on to the next ones. But anyways, this one's actually good enough for what I'm trying to do. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do this next one just so that I can take my glove off afterwards, and so that I can season these ribs next with a clean hand. Again, just kind of cutting off that little, I call it a skirt, that just cutting off anything that's just kind of hanging around, making them nice and even and smooth. And then we'll work on getting the membrane off on this one. One started to come off easier, but then it stopped. So I'm going to actually take this glove off. I'll just have to wash my hand real quick. Okay, so yeah, I'll go ahead and finish getting this membrane off, and then we can keep going. There it comes. All right. Membrane is off on this one as well. So let me go rinse my hand real quick, and then I'll show you how to season. Now, this was an idea that I got from, initially I heard it from Aaron Franklin, where he mentioned that a lot of times he'll put salt on the bottom of the ribs, and then on top he'll use a mixture of salt and pepper, where it's more heavy on the pepper. It's 2/3 part pepper, 1/3 part kosher salt. Again, I use a restaurant grind or coarse ground pepper for all of my smoking, and then kosher salt as well. Get those bigger granulars, get those bigger grains, so that you can really have texture on your meat and attract that smoke that we want, that good smoky flavor. So, but anyways, I heard Aaron Franklin talk about making his ribs this way, where you make it so that you get that savory flavor on your tongue when you bite into the bottom of the rib with the salt, and then the top you get that peppery, textury flavor. Never really tried it until I went to a place where actually I tried some ribs, and they did them they actually made them this way with putting salt on the bottom, and ever since I've just kind of been a big fan of it. So now that's how I do, typically I do my ribs, with salt on the bottom and pepper on the top. So there's the salt. I don't usually mustard this side. I kind of found doing mustard on the salt side doesn't really work too great. But now on the top side, I'll go ahead and throw just a very, very light amount of mustard on top. Spread it around. Again, we're just trying to make the surface so that it's sticky, so that it's tacky. You're never going to actually taste the mustard. Purpose of this is just to make it so that the seasoning sticks, the rub sticks. So salt and pepper mix. And don't go too heavy on this on ribs, just kind of make it nice and even. Get it all the way across. And that's it. So those are seasoned. Now I'm just going to go ahead and do the other rib with this other seasoning real quick. Again, just doing this purely because I just really want to test, see how it works, see what it tastes like, because you never know until you try it. So just going to kind of do the same amount of seasoning that I would normally do with salt and pepper. Don't want to over season it, still want the flavor of the meat and the smoke to stand out, but still want some seasoning on there. Want to be able to taste it, see what value it adds. So, and then after this, I'll just go ahead and put them right on the smoker. It's been warming up all morning and still going while I've been showing you how to do this, so that way I can just throw them straight on right away. So I'm not sure how this is going to work out. These granulars are not very big on this seasoning, so may not be great, but we're going to just try it anyways. But because they're not super big, I also made it a little bit heavier, just because trying to make sure that I really get enough. So anyways, there we have it. We'll go ahead and put these on the smoker, and then I'll kind of show you what I do to check them and how we kind of progress from here. Typically, I'll put them on the smoker, let them sit on there for at least a good hour, sometimes a little bit longer, and then I'll just start spritzing them with cider vinegar just to keep them from drying out, keep them moist. Better than that, you know, just kind of get to the point where you're ready to wrap them. But so we'll go and put these on the smoker now, and then we'll chicken on them in a little bit.